Hello and welcome back to Robot Republic. I'm Josh, and joining me today we have a special guest because I'm talking to Patrick from Rekt Studios. Hello, Patrick.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Doing great.
Awesome. So we're gonna sit down and we're gonna talk through Bunhouse, which is an adorable little game which you've been working on for. How long have you been working on this for?
It hasn't been that long actually, just like since February. So, what,
Oh
eight
wow,
months? Yeah.
that is a quick turnaround on a really lovely little game that is just
Thank you.
I
Yeah, I appreciate it.
had the chance to play it earlier on this week, and it has become kind of just such a lifesaver. It's such a just a calming game. Like it's just so chill, calm, and serene. It was just absolutely lovely to play.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think it's definitely like a growing movement, sort of that sort of more relaxing environment for games. Like ever since kind of COVID hit, I feel like Animal Crossing, that whole genre of
Yeah,
just chill whole game where people are like, I don't understand, like what's the objective? Like what do you do?
yeah.
But people just want to have a opportunity to relax and unwind. So
Oh, and I mean to be fair, that is offered and then some in this game because it is just so calm and peaceful. I mean, like just right from the get go, like there's this beautifully crafted piano music, which I believe you composed yourself.
Yep, that's correct. Yeah, I do everything for the game. There's a couple of assets that I got from the Unreal Engine store just because I didn't have time to model everything, but pretty much every single thing in the game is me.
Oh, Joe, that's absolutely incredible. Just kind of to have that commitment to your craft to be able to create something that's just and in 8 months. I mean, wow,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
wow.
It's also crazy. Yeah, looking back, I'm pretty surprised that I was able to pull it off of myself. Even it really has been such a quick, awesome journey for sure.
So kind of where did obviously you've kind of hinted at the inspiration being the kind of Animal Crossing New Horizon and kind of like due to the pandemic we've all wanted just kind of like these really nice chill serene games that we can just kind of lose ourselves in and stuff. Kind of was that how you came to the idea of having a bunch of adorable little bunnies that would just tend to their own garden and get paid in
Um,
carrots?
Yeah, actually, no, not at all. So I had been working on another game for like 2 years, basically to teach myself Unreal Engine, and it was sort of like just like a side hobby for me. But eventually, I got pretty invested in it, and I decided like, hey, this is really really fun. This is like really edifying for me. So I'm gonna maybe try to pursue this a little bit more seriously. I applied for a grant for that one project, and while I was waiting, I was like, okay, well, I have all these skills now. I'm gonna make a fun little project for my wife as like a surprise to her. My wife is obsessed with plants, and our if like you can see, I don't know, like obviously your viewers can't if this is a podcast, but we just have like
Yep.
plants like everywhere in our house. So my wife is obsessed with plants, and she also thinks bunnies are just like the most adorable thing in the world. So I decided I'm gonna make a fun little project for my wife, and spent like a month or two on it, and I was like, yay, this is really really funny and cute. I showed it to her, she was like ecstatic and loved it, and then I was like, you know what, this is like really adorable. I think this actually could be marketable. I'm gonna actually try to make something with this. So then I spent the next month after that like prepping for a Kickstarter, and then here we have Bunhouse in its final form.
That is like the most wholesome reason to develop a game I have ever heard.
Yeah,
You know,
thanks.
my wife loves plants and she loves bunnies, and I wanted to make a game for her. And then when I finished it, I thought, you know what, I could probably market this. That's so wholesome.
Yeah, well, I
It's
mean, clearly she's obviously the best game designer in the world because anything I came up with probably wouldn't have been as awesome and as receptive from the community. So I guess she's got good taste.
absolutely. I mean, and that kind of the game is so like well crafted and stuff. Like and the fact that you're basically a one man band is just you built this game that is calm. It's got a really nice kind of the movements and stuff as well. We'll come on to kind of like the more technical stuff in a minute, but just the whole feel of the game is so chill and so just nice, and it kind of it's just wholesome as hell, and it's got a really wholesome beginning as well, which is just absolutely wonderful. Um, So yeah, I mean, the thing that I first noticed when I went into the game was the choice of bunnies. Did you spend a lot of time looking at different types of bunnies, or was that your wife going and look at this bunny and look at this bunny, and you just have all this kind of like this camera roll filled with bunny pictures?
Well, really, it was when I started programming originally, I only had like a couple things to choose from, specifically in terms of ears. Like I was like, okay, well, I can have upright ears. I'm going to figure out how to do physics to make lop ears because lop ears are adorable and watching them flop around is just the cutest thing ever. So I had those in there. And then as far as like the patterns of the fur patterns, I basically just like kind of went through and was like, what do I think my wife would think is cute? Because at this point, it was kind of a surprise for her. I was working on it, for a while before I showed her. And so that's how I kind of came up with the original skins. And then the rest that's in the game now is all pretty much because of the Kickstarter people. There was like a reward tier where people could design their own buns and put them like their own pets in the game. So that's where most of the other stuff came from, including like now I have like Netherland Dwarf rabbit ears and the oh yeah the lion head where they just have to kind of roughed up hair
Yeah.
and stuff.
Oh, that's so
But
cool.
yeah, I mean, there's so many rabbits out there. I've had lots of requests, but it's hard to put everything in there for sure.
Oh, you'd be there for years programming
Yeah.
every permutation of bunny rabbit into the game. Oh, I mean, I ended up playing as a little black and white bunny rabbit with
Oh, nice. Did you
um
go with the Dutch one?
I think I went with a Dutch one.
Okay. Yeah,
Um
that's one of my favorites.
yeah, I was just like, oh, it's so cute with his little pointy up ears and stuff.
Yeah.
Um and then the animation and the movement and stuff when you're walking around as the bunny rabbit was really, really smooth. Like that can't have
Thank
been
you. Yeah.
easy. That can't have been easy to do.
Yeah, I'm actually super surprised. I think the walking upright animation was a little bit gimpy. Like I like the way they flop and stuff, but I actually just recently redid that one because it was kind of bothering me. But the general like movement when the rabbits are on the ground, I actually did that like animation in like 5 minutes, and I was like, okay, this is my placeholder, and then I was like, wow, this is really good. Like it's
Yeah,
working so well. So I think I just kind of like lucked into it a little bit, where I just had the rough idea down, and it just happened to work really well with, how they accelerate in the game.
that's wow. I mean, yeah, 5 minutes. That is
Yeah,
insane.
I bet I couldn't do it again, but it just stuck so well. It
I
fit
does
perfectly.
I think to be fair, in the early moments of the game when I was still kind of like trying to work out. I mean, I'm not horticulturally minded in the slightest. Like my partner does all of the gardening. If I go near a plant, it dies within minutes. Which was reflected in the game as well. Not gonna
You've
lie,
killed a lot of plants
the
early on.
first the first plant I planted, I flooded it with too much water and I didn't give it enough sun, and the little smiley face that was next to it was like literally like
Mm.
weeping. I was like, "Oh, what
Just
have I
really
done?"
chronic. Wow, poor little plant.
Yeah. Um
Yeah, I need to. There's probably a way for me to track. I mean, there is a statistic in the game of how many plants you killed. I wonder if there's a way for me to see like everyone that's played the game, how many plants have been killed because of people.
oh god.
Be
Please
such a
don't.
sad
Please don't look at
statistic.
that statistic. I think it was like second time I walked into the greenhouse. It literally like obviously I was like the little emote next to the plant was kind of crying and stuff. I walked out the greenhouse. I think I went for a little mooch around the your little allotment with your greenhouse. And I came back in and there was just this like sad music and the plant had died. I was like, oh my god, no.
Poor guy. But yeah, it's funny because my wife actually used to be terrible at taking care of plants too, and she like loved it, but would always kill them. And then I don't know what happened, but like five years ago maybe she just like turned a corner and it was now like amazing, and now like we pretty much never have plants die.
That's amazing.
I don't know how she does it.
I don't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I couldn't. I would kill plants constantly. I just forget about them.
Yeah. I just
I
kind of go,
managed to kill something before.
yeah, if it's an outside plant, I just kind of look at it and go, it might not die if it stays out there.
Let
Probably.
the sky, water it, and then we'll
Exactly. I'm like, it
survive with
gets
the
gets
day.
sunlight. It'll get watered when it rains. It'll be fine. Um, and that kind of brings us on to the kind of main core mechanics of the game because obviously you are or well, we'll come on to the multiplayer in a minute because I want to talk to you about the kind of concept behind some of the multiplayer stuff. But the core mechanic of the game is or the core kind of idea of the game is you are this adorable little bunny rabbit who has a greenhouse. And in your greenhouse, you are going to plants, which you're then going to sell at a very cute little stand outside your greenhouse, like a little person selling strawberries at the side of the road in the most adorable manner possible. Honestly, the noises is when I started playing this game that came out of my mouth. My partner looked at me and was like, "What? What are you doing?" I turned my laptop around and was like, "Look at the cute bunny rabbits." I was like, "This is so adorable." And then you get paid in carrots, and then you can change the carrots, exchange carrots to buy bigger pots, different plants, and all these various upgrades. And you start with a very generous 50 carrots, which I'm not going to lie, I found the greenhouse customization before think I got actually worked out that I was meant to be planting and selling plants and spent all of my
Oh,
carrots
okay,
on.
so you had a dope looking greenhouse, but absolutely no plants to do anything with.
Yeah, yeah. So I have this beautiful black greenhouse, no carrots and no flowers because the first one died. I was like, well, this has gone south fast. Do I need to restart the game? And the answer is no, you don't.
You don't, because someone told me what happens if if someone accidentally kills all their plants and has no money, and so I decided to put in a safeguard for that.
Which, having played the game, I'm really glad you did because I was like, oh, there's just a random, but there's a flower seed there. I can grab the flower seed, and I'm not going to be completely broke. This is brilliant. Turned out I then killed that one, and then had to wait for another box to appear as well. So I made full use of the safeguard system when we did our
All
test
right, well, that's
plays.
what it's there for.
Please don't ever remove that for idiots like me who will be sitting there going, "Oh dear, I seem to have killed my flowers and spent all my money on making my greenhouse look pretty."
Yes, that's there to stay.
And the other thing I found in the game whilst kind of exploring, because you're not just stuck on your little allotment. You can go for a bit of a wander. You can go up, explore the area. There's this really lovely. I'm assuming myself and our editor Callie was talking about the little kind of Winnie the Pooh esque signs in the ground. Were they kind of your top tier Kickstarter
Yep.
people?
Yeah. So that was just an incentive for backing a certain tier. A lot of people said they look like gravestones, which is really sad to me, and I didn't intend that, but hopefully
I
all my Kickstarters like them.
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of looked at it and was like, oh, it's kind of like Winnie the Pooh esque with the little signs outside all the houses and stuff. I was like, oh, that's
Yeah.
really cute. Um, yeah, no, I really like that. And then, what kind of the other thing that I noticed as well is that you can get into a really adorable little rowboat, and your bunny can literally row a boat
Yep.
and go fishing.
That you can. Catch and release only though, because buns are vegetarians.
Yes, and I genuinely, when the first fish I caught, I was like, oh no, what do I do now? And then the bunny, and again, seamlessly beautiful animations in this as well.
Thank you.
Because like the bunny literally just like shakes the little fish loose and then it jumps back into the little lake and swims away. I was like, oh, that's so cute.
Yep.
Honestly.
I think if you time it right too, you can kind of yeet the fish behind you. Like you can just like shoot it off your rod if you're spinning around a little bit too much.
Well, I know what I'm
But
doing when I get home from work tomorrow. Huh. That's memeable content. That is, you
oh,
know,
for sure.
bunny eating fish. Brilliant. Um, and that kind of, the other thing that really stands out as well is it's got this really adorable cartoony kind of vibe to it in terms of the kind of general design and stuff. Kind of was that all part of the process when you were kind of originally coming up with the idea for this? Was it I want this to look really kind of quaint and cute and with this really warm and inviting color tones and stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm sure you've seen the kind of like the little hut off to the side of the greenhouse. That's from like an actual asset pack that I bought. So like that was kind of like my starter. Is like, oh, I really like this. And then everything else that I made, I tried to kind of emulate roughly that style. I will be the first to admit that I'm not a wonderful artist. I think I'm great at modeling. Like my bun looks top tier, it looks great. But as far as texturing goes, like I don't know how people do it so well. It's so hard for me. So I got the animations down and all of that, but texturing is always a challenge for me. Luckily, I don't have to be super accurate in Bunhouse with doing like 4K textures or anything because the camera is far enough away from plants that you really don't see super crazy detailed things. Uh, so yeah, I did try to emulate sort of this like stylized, really cozy, homey atmosphere for all of the assets in the game.
That's awesome, and it really does come through. I mean, to be fair, I've got some gameplay footage from when I was playing it the other day. I recorded some gameplay footage of the game itself to kind of use, because this will hopefully later on be going up on our YouTube channel as well, which will be quite nice. And I'm just looking now, and you can see it just adds this really nice splash of color. It looks kind of like, I mentioned it a minute ago and stuff, but it's kind of like that kind of Winnie the Pooh, Roald Dahl, really kind of like homely, calm, inviting thing. Like, nothing's gonna go wrong in this world at all. I've got some nice flowers, I've got a pretty greenhouse, I've got an adorable bunny, I can go catch and release fishing, and I can grow plants. And it's just color scheme wise, it's just really, like, I found it this week when I've been playing it and stuff, prepping for this interview. I've spent a lot of time kind of just going, oh, it's just calm. It's just so
Yeah.
chill. Um, the other thing I was going to talk as well, because obviously you've programmed in dual control support, so I think people can use when I was playing it, we used keyboard and mouse, but you've also programmed in controller support as well.
Yep.
Was that difficult to do, or was that quite, from a kind of programming and design perspective, was that quite simple?
As far as making your character do everything with a controller, it's super super easy with the game engine I use. It's like adding like one extra, like checkbox essentially of like, oh, I want this to be on this gamepad. But when it comes to doing UI, oh my gosh, it's a nightmare.
I bet.
To be able to, yeah. So I actually kind of worked around that a little bit in that I'm sure you've noticed when you're on keyboard, uh, I kind of designed this game for a controller. Like I wanted to be controller, like geared toward that more so. It's particularly because it's multiplayer. So on keyboard, you can't actually use the mouse for anything to select anything. Everything you do in UI and menus and stuff is all just using like WASD or the arrow keys,
Yeah,
which is essentially me mapping the same things to the controller. It's like saying like, okay, if I go down on my controller here, that means like down for my WASD, and it's way easier to do that than having to worry about two completely different systems of like, oh, if the mouse is here and the controller presses this, like what happens?
yeah,
So it's kind of my way around that.
yeah, and that's really cool. I mean, to be fair, when I was playing it, I was, like I say, I was playing it with keyboard and mouse and stuff, and it was just, the control was really easy and quite intuitive. And I am definitely, probably when I get some time after this interview tomorrow, perhaps when I sit down to tend my growing set of plants now. I've got more than one.
Oh, excellent.
I'll probably plug my controller in actually, and see how the game handles on controller, because that'd be interesting actually, because it's quite nice. Because some of the games that, a lot of PC games kind of have controller support, and the controller support can be a little bit questionable. Um,
Yeah, for sure.
but if you've kind of,
I don't. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, but you seem to have programmed it almost in reverse to what a lot of people do when they're designing for PC games, where you've actually said, no, this is going to be, I want this to be a controller based game, and then I'll put keyboard and mouse support in afterwards.
Yeah, I don't know if you ever played the game Overcooked,
Yes,
but yeah, it's sort of very similar where they programmed specifically for a controller. Like that game's it's not fun to play on keyboard. It's just so much
I bet.
easier. So I actually really did model a lot of my inputs based on Overcooked specifically. Again, because this was a project for my wife, and my wife loves Overcooked. So uh, all all design things come back to the ultimate. This started as a little project for her, but yep, that was kind of my goal is to get it to feel nice and good on controller. But keyboard, I mean, I use keyboard almost exclusively because when I'm programming, that's when I do most of my testing.
Yeah,
So I'm already on keyboard, but I test both of them a ton.
that's awesome. That's really cool, and really important as well. Actually, when you're doing kind of like game design and stuff, to actually make sure that both both feel good, and not like one was just thrown as an afterthought. Oh, there are some people that might want it like this actually, and that's really quite nice. And that kind of, the next thing I wanted to talk about was the kind of addition. There are some little additional things that you can do in the game, um, on top of just selling your plants, growing your plants, making sure they don't die, which for some people was going to be more of a struggle than others, going fishing and stuff. And that's, your bunny has the ability to do the boosting thing,
Mm-hmm.
which I didn't realize until about an hour into playing.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, I was then just kind of like launching my bunny rabbit across the field, like, oh my god, there's like a whole new level of enjoyment in this game. It's gone from being genuinely adorable to, I'm now feel like, Superman the bunny. Um, So yeah, kind of like, and with those animations as well, similar with the movement animations, they look really kind of nice and stuff. Did you spend much time kind of like looking at it? This sounds really sad, but did you spend lots of time? Because I know, from a kind of like development perspective, you have to do the research and stuff. Did you spend a lot of time looking at kind of like how bunnies move and stuff when you program the animation for the kind of like the leaping boost jump things, or did you just kind of go, I want the bunny to look a little bit like a superhero when it leaps?
Yeah, it was more latter. Like I didn't use a whole bunch of reference videos, and part of the reason for that is I think people in the bun community refer to it as like a binky when
Yeah.
buns just kind of flop around and do a crazy, like jump like that. The biggest issue is that small creatures move so quickly and it's almost like imperceptible like how their body contorts in the air that fast and like ends up in the position it does. So just from a game design perspective, like you have to have the animation be a little bit smoother than that.
Mm.
So I did kind of have to go off book for that, and uh, try to make it look like, hey, this is a bunny leaping, but it's not maybe exactly what they would do. And yeah, the boosting mechanic I think is important because people want to go fast, want to get to places more quickly. And secondly, if you'll recall from Overcooked, it is literally a mechanic in Overcooked. You boost constantly, and you also notice in Overcooked when you run into people, it kind of like knocks them back. That also happens for multiplayer in Bunhouse. So again, I thought that was just a really fun mechanic in Overcooked. It's hilarious when people run into each other when they're trying to, work in the kitchen. I think it's funny if people are carrying plants and run into each other too. So yeah, similar reasoning for that is why I added that in.
Oh, brilliant. And that does. I mean, the next thing I was going to say is that what I noticed when I booted the game up, there is when well, the version of the game we had, um, there was the ability to share a link code with someone um, on your friends list, so you could both play multiplayer. Is that a feature that is going to kind of remain in the game and stuff?
Okay, yeah. So I think you're probably referring to Steam's Remote Play Together feature.
Yes.
So my game doesn't actually have online multiplayer, but Steam is super awesome. And the actual software of Steam, like a year ago maybe, they found a way to say, hey, we're going to add this feature in that if you have a local co-op game, we're going to basically connect these two computers by inputs. So it's like one computer's hosting, so you can still play online, but it is, technically still local co-op. So I didn't have to do anything special to make it online, as long as you're playing on Steam.
Oh, that's awesome.
Again, if I were to do something online, it would take honestly like another year probably. Like when you add multiplayer online, it complicates things so much more immensely.
Yeah, I bet that's
So I just yeah, as a solo developer, and it's particularly someone who doesn't have a lot of skills with networking, I decided to not do that.
that's fair enough. My background's in design and stuff as well, and I'm just like, that's a programmer's job. You
Yeah.
you're better with that stuff than I am. You go make it work, please. Um, but
But
no,
yeah,
that's
I'm
really
super
cool.
grateful and fortunate that Steam's able to do that though.
Yeah,
Then you'd be able to connect people online in that way. It's just an amazing feature.
yeah. I remember I emailed our editor about it, and I was just like, "Can we play it this weekend on multiplayer mode?" And his response was literally verbatim, "I think we're gonna have to." So I was like, "Yes."
That's
Um,
amazing.
so we're definitely gonna be playing this weekend on the kind of on the not so local multiplayer, um, which is really really cool actually, and it kind of I think from my perspective as well, now that I know that now that we know that you were developing this for your wife and stuff, does that mean that you can then have you? I mean, the important question now is, have you played this with your wife?
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. She's my go-to play tester. I'm like, all right, this is going to be a major update. I need to like play this with a few hours for you, or play this with you for a few hours, to see if we find any bugs or something I didn't notice. So yeah, she also has an extreme propensity toward wanting to cheat, and like I have a little cheat code in the game where you can get more carrots so that she can just instantly make your greenhouse more beautiful. Because she doesn't want to deal with all the taking care of plants immediately and just having to slow grind. She wants to just have everything look amazing all at once. That's just like her personality. She's
I
also
can
the type of
relate.
person that looks up spoilers for things constantly. So it's adorable and frustrating, but yes,
I can
definitely she's
relate. I
the
can absolutely relate with your wife on that one. As was shown when I started playing, and I was just like, oh my god, I can customize the greenhouse. And I was like, oh, I'm poor.
best.
But now you tell me
Yeah,
there's a cheat code for unlimited for a
there,
boosting
there is
carrots.
a cheat code. Yes, there is a cheat code.
How does one find
Yeah,
these cheat codes?
there's a stump near the like the little hut to the left of your greenhouse, and if you
Yeah.
go near the stump, it'll give you a prompt that says "Investigate suspicious stump." And if you press space, you can enter like a 5-digit code, and I have different codes mapped to different things to help me playtest and also to give cheats and stuff.
Oh, cool. And are these cheats going to be released anywhere, or have they been kind of Kickstarter exclusive stuff?
There are a couple that are Kickstarter exclusive because that's how they get their exclusive rewards.
Yep.
But all the other cheats I do have in a document that's called the Bunhouse Ultimate Unlocking Guide that tells you how to unlock every single thing, how to get through every plant, how to get every achievement. And then at the very bottom, it says like scroll down for cheat codes. And then you can see if you're into that, you can definitely look at the cheat codes.
Now that I know that's there, I'm going to have to, really.
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
There's going to be severe restraint involved when that dot. If you said when you send me that, I'm going to be looking at it going, I don't need the cheat codes. I'm going to do this properly. I'm going to do this properly, and then probably at some point over the weekend, I'll be like, all of my plants are dead again. Um. Oh, that's brilliant. I mean, to be fair, like I just this game has so much charm, and yeah, kind of what as well. One of the things I was really enjoying about the game was the customization in the greenhouse and the different kind of pot sizes and stuff, and the fact that you can have a plant growing in a little pot. And it took me a while to work this out as well, which makes me sound really stupid. But you can actually then pick up the little pot or the plant from the little pot and then move it into a slightly bigger pot and then plant a small one back in the first pot, and you can just have like this little sequential conveyor belt of plants and stuff kind of growing.
You got
Um,
it. That's min maxing right there. But
that's
you're definitely not stupid for not noticing that. That's actually means that I'm a bad designer because I didn't tutorialize that well enough. But have no fear because in my most recent update, I'll be putting out before release. I have a much better updated tutorial that tells you kind of those things that were unmentioned before. So
I mean, because obviously we play. I think we played um, a relatively recent-ish, but not complete version of the game. Um, is that right?
yeah, it's still
Yeah,
in beta
yeah,
right
yeah.
now until like 5 more days. But I'm doing like one more huge overhaul. I've got a huge list of stuff that's going to come out right before release that should tidy up a lot of things for sure.
I mean, to be fair, like, one of the things that I liked about it actually, because obviously, at the moment I'm aware at the moment in the games industry and designing and stuff, there's this kind of like big kind of discussion that occurs around tutorials and whether they need to be overt, whether you need to have separate tutorial levels, whether you need to have all these other bits and bobs, or whether you can do it through the UI and the UX and stuff. And what I enjoyed about this was the explorative side. So the kind of the opening tutorial is here is box, push button to open box, cool, open box, get seed, cool, put seed in bucket, cool, put seed in bucket, put soil in bucket, or no, I think it was soil first and then seed. See, already buggering it up, and I claim to be a professional. Um, and it was this really nice thing. And then after I did one plant, this was the one that died. However, um, don't judge me, please. Um, it then just kind of said, right, you know the basics, crack on. And at that point, I was like, oh, I like this. It's very, very chill. And that's when I ultimately then went out and went for a run around and painted my greenhouse and then went, oh dear, I've used all my currency.
Yep, and yeah, that's pretty much how the tutorial remains. There's just a couple more things I added in, like the ability to repot plants that are already inside of pots, and some other things that were confusing people. Specifically, like people didn't really know about the inspect function, which is really important for noticing plant health and like seeing how the plant's doing. So, yep, just added those two things, but the tutorial remains very, very simplistic and very much okay. You're on your own. Have fun. Do whatever you want now.
And that's kind of, to be fair, like I found that quite nice because it didn't feel too over the top. It was like, this is what you need, this is how the game works, go do your thing. Um,
Yep.
and I was going to say, the inspect function actually was really nice. I mean, I ended up initially I was using it and I didn't quite get it. I'm not gonna lie, I do have moments where I am a bit stupid, and I was just like, what is this plantopedia thing? And then I was like, oh, there's like a full blown like document that's got all this information about the plants and where they grow and what they need. And then I went to the little post box thing, and I found out that then also tells you the sun levels and the water levels for the plants. And I was like, Well, I clearly have been paying so little attention because I've been enthralled by the bunny and the beautiful kind of landscaping and the stylization that I have been paying very little attention to actually how to play the game. Um, which was really nice to be fair, because I was when I hit that moment, I was like, oh, I now understand what like a little light bulb went on. I went, oh, I know how to play the game
Yeah,
properly. Um,
for sure.
but yeah, kind of like what did with the Plantopedia and stuff, and kind of like I don't want to spend too much time because obviously we could spend hours talking about how you programmed bits and bobs in this, and then half of the people that will be watching this will then sit there and go, "Oh God, why?" Um,
It's so boring.
please don't talk about programming forever, the pair of you. Um, but what I was going to say with the Plantopedia and kind of all the kind of the mechanics of the plant growth and stuff, kind of was that really difficult to program, or was it a lot of kind of like, right, here is my kind of basic logic for a plant growing, and then I'm just going to tweak these variables based on certain factors.
So yeah, like I said, I was programming, learning this engine for 2 years, and then I was working on one game, and I kind of like got to a point where I looked back and was like, "Wow, I did so many things so badly." And so this kind of new project was an opportunity for me to say, "Okay, like I know what my goal is. I need to think about what's actually the best way to do this." And you're exactly right. That's exactly how it is. It's super easy. I have like essentially a parent plant that says, okay, this is how basically all plants work. And then I have children plants that like tweak the specifics. So it really is the hardest part about adding a new plant is modeling, which takes a long time because I have to add, like 4 or 5 different plant stages.
Yeah.
But other than that, like it is really simple. Like if I model it, then I just put it in the game and it's ready to go pretty much.
Oh, that's brilliant. I mean, yeah, and that's what you want as well. Like as a one man band, as a one man team, who's doing all this on his own, having something that is efficient and stuff means that you can spend more time on modeling and stuff. And that brings me on to the kind of like the modeling of the core of the gameplay, really, the kind of the plants that you're growing and stuff. Because obviously, like I think when I was playing it, I got as far as having a medium-sized plot. I had like a tiny one, a couple of small ones, and then a couple of big ones, a couple of medium-sized ones and stuff. But you would just sit there. When I was going through, there are like there's a lot more to do, and there are like large plant pots and all these other things and that, which you start unlocking the more you play, and the more kind of with uh, brain fart. Sorry.
That's okay. I
Um,
didn't smell anything. I'm on the other side here.
um, with the kind of like the plants and stuff and the modeling and stuff, did you kind of obviously that's is one of the more time consuming aspects of kind of game design and stuff. When you were modeling the plants themselves and stuff, with the development, with the kind of like each stage and stuff, because obviously you've got the tiny ones which are like these little sproutlings, and then it kind of grows into a little sapling, and then it grows into a like kind of like a desk plant. And then it goes up from there, or I would assume it goes up from there. I think, like I said, I got to medium-sized plant pots and therefore third stage plants. Um, one of the things I noticed was I think it was either the roses or the poppies. When it hit the third stage, I went from having one rose to like two or three in a little pot.
Hmm.
Does that mean that then when from a kind of I say progression in inverted commas, um, as you kind of put them in more pots, and then does that mean you end up with like these kind of like big bouquets of kind of like flowers, or these big kind of like fancy looking plants or this other stuff?
Yeah, for sure. Yep. So the pretty much almost every game or every plant in the game either gets to like a large or like a huge stage, and the huge or large stages for sure they have a lot more complexity in the plant to them. There's like a lot more volume and such.
Hmm.
Eventually, you'll unlock hanging plants, and then those like really kind of cascade down when they get large. Um, but yeah, and it is interesting. It's kind of like a interesting design thing too, because some plants are just straight up small. Like the biggest they get is tiny.
Hmm.
So, like for example, in the game, there's a lemon button fern, which never gets very large. So, some of the plants you can have like a medium sized pot, and the plant will be able to grow to its like large or huge stage. But some plants take up like a lot of room, and so it takes larger pots.
Oh, and that is really nice, kind of like design and mechanics and stuff, really, because it kind of not forces the player, but it kind of allows the player to mix and match with kind of different plants and pot sizes and stuff. And you know, that's something that I found really quite interesting and nice when I was playing through the game, because obviously once I had initially got around the horror of killing my first plant and then actually playing the game properly
Right.
and making it work, um, I then found that actually kind of like selling the plants with because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there were two variables when I was playing it that depended on how much you got paid, and that was condition and size. or am I
Yep,
completely off the
you're
bat
right.
there?
Yep. So if you have the largest, plant that you can have and it's perfectly healthy, then you get the most carrots back from it. Yep, you're right.
Yeah, and I thought that was just a really nice touch actually. That actually you've got this little adorable bunny rabbit who's trying to kind of he's set himself up a little business, a little side hustle of growing plants. Um, but he wants them to be good quality. I always took it. Yeah, I always think about kind of like possibly reading too much into it to be fair, but in my head I was kind of like having this little bunny who was just like I want all my plants to be really good quality. More as an OCD thing more than anything to be fair. What that says about me you can read into internet, but still. Um, but yeah, I thought that was a really nice way of kind of actually rewarding players who are kind of keeping on top, like you say, using the inspector to kind of keep on tabs with things like not just the plant quality but the soil quality as well. Because I
Yeah,
noticed
for sure.
over time that degrades slightly.
Yep.
Um, there was one thing I needed to ask you actually about the kind of like plants and stuff because I wasn't 100% sure if I was right with this. Do each of the plants have different development times?
Yes, they do. And usually the farther plants in the game, like the ones that take more to unlock, take a little bit longer. And then also plants that take longer to grow end up giving you more carrots as well. So there's like a trade off. I have like a whole fun spreadsheet about all of the, all of the info for how long it should take for each plant and how much they should be worth and stuff. So it is quite extensive math wise. But yes, that is true.
That's really cool. And like you say, wow, yeah, from a kind of maths and a programming perspective, that must have taken hour days to kind of
Yeah,
sort all
and
that out.
I originally had it just like I just put basically whatever number I wanted, and then I was like, all right, this really doesn't make sense. Like this plant's giving me like 300 carrots, and it's this one's like taking a lot longer and not. So yeah, I definitely had to adjust a lot of things.
I was going to say, was there a lot of balancing involved when you kind of were bringing all the variables into the
Yeah, and I
categorizing?
assume I'll probably do more balancing after launch as well as
Yeah,
I get more feedback from people because my beta test was pretty small. I only had like 40 people, I think, playing the game. So I'm sure there'll be more things to balance too. But luckily, we live in an age where I can patch it, after a few days, and I don't have to ship an entire new cartridge. So
yeah. God, could you imagine?
I could not.
I often do think back to the 90s and think that's why so many games that I grew up playing seemed so broken now, but as a child I didn't really care.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, and were so buggy and glitchy because actually you couldn't patch them when there were problems. You just had to kind of say, "Oh well."
Yep.
I suppose that's it, really. Tough luck, people. Um, uh, last thing from me really is kind of what's next because obviously you've got two other games that have released before this one, um, which are I think they're both available on Steam now.
I actually only had one other game release. I had one I was working on for a while, but that one's not released yet.
Ah, okay,
But yes, just one other game. It was just something that kind of got me into development. I was using RPG Maker, just like a pixelated RPG, which is on Steam. Yes,
cool,
but this is
um,
definitely like a more full fledged release for sure.
awesome. I mean, this game is lots of fun. Really, really good after a long, stressful day as well. Like if you've had a day where you've been stuck in traffic or you've had a rubbish day at the office and your boss is on your case about something, go home and play Bunhouse because it is so chill. And you can like literally, I had a really stressful day a couple of days ago, and then I came home and played this in prep for this interview, and I came away from it just like I just feel so chill now. Like
Excellent.
just
Yeah,
a
there's just
couple of
like no.
hours.
Yeah. And as far as what's next, I have, my target is to get Bunhouse on Switch February, March or sometime. I never ported to Switch before, but I am like an approved developer with my other game that I had submitted to them. So I'm in the back end. I have, part of the head work done, but I still have, a lot to learn for sure. But that's how I've done everything as I teach myself, and it's worked out so far. So I'm really confident. I think it's gonna be great. And then as far as after that, we'll really see how the reception is at launch for Bunhouse, but I could see it being a game where people just kind of fall in love with it, and I get to update it, like Stardew Valley, sort of, just kind of bringing more love to the game, more awesome things to do, and then obviously after that, Too Fast, Too Bunhouse, got to do like the sequels and the trequel. No, I don't know, but I really do like this kind of niche that I've found with Bunhouse, the sort of wholesome gaming market. Everyone's been just such a wonderfully supportive and awesome community. So I do see myself kind of staying in this genre.
Oh, that's amazing, and that's really nice to hear actually as well because I always, you know, I always look at gaming, and there are obviously big AAA games, which are always these big, over the top, ostentatious, normally shootery games, occasionally massive sprawly sandboxes. But it's really nice to just play games that are chill, and things like Animal Crossing New Horizons stuff are nice to just sit and play and lose yourself in. And Bunhouse is definitely one of them. It's definitely up there in terms of the unbelievably chill games that you can just sit and play for a little bit and just relax and just lose yourself in. And a game that looks beautiful, plays really, really nicely, and has a really beautiful soundtrack
Yeah,
as
thank you.
well.
I appreciate
I
that.
mean, that was a big stick out to me. I was just kind of like, oh, this soundtrack is just like, oh,
Yeah,
and
I've been
it's
composing music a lot longer than I've been making games, so I have a little bit more expertise there. I usually do like kind of orchestral pieces, but Bunhouse has a lot more like happy go getter,
yep,
like chill vibes for sure. It was
yeah,
fun to experiment with.
I loved it. Honestly, it was just like, and the perfect backing track to a game that is just all about wholesome, chilling out, taking your time, and not just kind of having to stress or worry about things
Yeah, absolutely.
unless you accidentally kill your plant.
But you can sell your dead plants for 1 carrot at the stand.
I did realize that quite late on when I was playtesting it. I was like, I could have sold the dead one.
So not all is lost.
At that ratio, I will be forever broke in Bunhouse. But it is still an incredibly enjoyable game, and it's easy to pick up, easy to spend a few hours playing, looking at the clock, and going, "Oh bloody hell, I've been tending to me flowers for about 2 hours. Better go and do some dinner now." Um,
For sure.
but yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much, Patrick, for joining us. It's been
Oh
lovely
yeah,
having
my
you on.
pleasure.
Um, And yeah, thank you very much. If you'll be watching this on YouTube, people, so please do like and subscribe to Robot Republic. And please do head over to our Twitter because that's where we get all of our announcements for when other developer interviews are going out, along with all of our weekly streaming and our weekly Let's Plays. Before we sign off, Patrick, where can we find you?
You can find me in South Carolina. Just go to the corner of. No, I'm just kidding. You can find Bunhouse on Steam, Twitter at Rekt Studios, Reky Studios. And yeah, I'd love to say hi to y'all.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Patrick, and we will see you all next time.
Adios.